Twitter takes an unprecedented attack against blue check mark users. A North Carolina town approves reparations for black citizens. Brian Kemp voids many localities' mask orders, and we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate today. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Contemporary. I'm Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch to get to today. It's not been as busy of a news day as past days have been, but we do still have a bunch to get to today. So strap yourselves in because it's still an election year and every day is going to be busy up until we pull that ballot in November. So, before we get started, though, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Looks like Daily Ignoramus is back up, or at least temporarily, so go over there and check out Stephen Ignoramus. We've also got The Generational Gap, The Freckles and Brit Show, Wyatt Birkenhoff, who put up another stream last night, so go check that out over there. We've got The R-Rated Conservative, and we've got me, so come on over, check us all out. Pick up some of our swag and support some great creators. All right, to look at the Dow yesterday, it looks like yesterday we actually cleared 27,000 on the Dow. Briefly, albeit, we cleared 27,000. That's just another benchmark closer to that 29,000 recovery that the Dow would take. And of course, as I always say, the Dow is not the economy. But it does make a good benchmark, especially since most of what's on the Dow is stuff that we use every day. So it looks like confidence is up, but it looks like we had a little bit of a crash yesterday. So we'll see what happens today, and we will see what happened in futures overnight. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures, who will lead coronavirus stock market rally? Netflix earnings on tap, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures fell early Thursday, along with S&P 500 futures and especially NASDAQ futures. The Shanghai Composite sold off sharply on retail sales, despite better than expected second quarter GDP growth. Sorry, I sneezed like 7 times before we hit the live camera here, so I got a little bit of a tickle in the throat, so if I clear my throat, I apologize. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing reported better than expected quarter 2 earnings and guided up on revenue. Johnson & Johnson reported declining earnings and sales that beat views for the Dow Jones medical giant, Domino's Pizza, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Abbott Laboratories beat quarter 2 views as well. Netflix is due after the close. The coronavirus stock market rally started Wednesday, signaling a sector rotation, but closed with decent gains for major indices. Apple has looked unfazed during the week's turmoil, but which other stocks will lead the coronavirus market rally going forward? The coronavirus stock market rally opened Wednesday with real economy names rising sharply on positive Moderna COVID-19 vaccine news. So everybody go out there and get stabbed in the arm with your Bill Gates approved drugs. And blowout Goldman Sachs earnings. Growth names were a little changed or lower, but by the close, the Dow Jones and S&P 500 still outperformed the NASDAQ, but not by much. Moderna stock and Goldman Sachs stock then jumped into buy zones. Wednesday morning closed off well into intraday highs, but AstraZeneca, which reportedly will provide some upbeat coronavirus vaccine news of its own, closed just above the buy point. AZN stock jumped after the close on further reports of positive results, but turned negative Thursday morning. BAC stock and J&J stock were still well below buy points. Morgan Stanley stock tried to break out Wednesday like rival Goldman Sachs, but paired gains. Domino stock closed just in buy range, but looked set to open out of the 5% chase zone. Netflix stock is trading tightly after reversing from record highs. They got woke. Domino stock, Netflix stock, and Apple stock are an IBD leaderboard. DPZ stock is an IBD long-term leader. Taiwan Semiconductor stock is on the IBD 50. Dow Jones futures fell 0.6% versus fair value off their worst levels. S&P 500 futures sank 0.6%. NASDAQ 100 futures retreated 1.3%, indicating that tech stocks are still relatively out of favor somewhat. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading on the next regular stock market session. China's GDP rose 3.2% in the second quarter versus a year earlier, better than expected. That followed Q1's 6.8% tumble as China was in the height of the coronavirus pandemic. Industrial production climbed 4.8% versus a year earlier, just above the views, but June retail sales fell 1.8% versus a year earlier. Worse than views for a 0.3% gain. The Shanghai Composite fell 4.5% on Thursday, and many U.S. listed Chinese stocks were indicated lower as well. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the Commerce Department will release U.S. retail sales for June, while the Labor Department will report the weekly jobless claims. Well, that was just a little bit ago, so we'll probably talk a bit about that tomorrow as it comes up here. So that's what's happening on the IBD world. Let's go see what's happening on the CNBC side. Dow futures dropped more than 150 points as earnings season continues. Jobless claims ahead from Fred Imbert and Pippa Stevens. U.S. futures fell Thursday with investors focused on earnings results and looking ahead to the weekly U.S. jobless claims report. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures traded 161 points lower, or 0.6%. S&P 500 dipped 0.6%, and NASDAQ 100 futures were off by 1.2%. So we'll see a little bit of a slide opening up, but I know America, and we're going to keep trying to get to that 29,000 point. Bank of America reported better than expected earnings for the previous quarter. However, the stock fell more than 2% as companies set aside $4 billion for coronavirus-related losses. Dow member Johnson & Johnson traded 0.8% lower despite posting better than expected results. Morgan Stanley shares rose 0.9% after the company's quarterly earnings easily beat analyst expectations on the back of strong trading revenues. Netflix is set to report earnings after the bell. Thursday's move came following a major sell-off in mainland Chinese stocks, which saw the Shanghai Composite down more than 4% on the day. That came despite China reporting that the country's GDP grew 3.2% in the second quarter of the year, as compared to a year ago, above expectations of a 2.5% growth by economics in a Reuters poll. In the U.S., traders awaited the release of weekly unemployment claims data. Economists polled by Dow Jones expect 1.25 million people have filed for unemployment benefits last week. June's retail sales numbers will also be released on Thursday, with economists polled by Dow Jones expecting a 5.2% jump as the economy continued to reopen. May's 17.7% surge blew past estimates and was the largest reading on record. Stocks finished Wednesday's session higher, fueled by positive news regarding a potential coronavirus vaccine, as well as strong earnings results from Goldman Sachs. Data published by the New England Journal of Medicine showed Moderna's coronavirus vaccine produced a robust immune system and an impeccable 5G signal, or neutralizing antibodies, in all 45 patients in its early stage human trial. And there's the chart there as we look at every day. So yeah, that's where we fell down to the bottom, and that's where we're getting back to right now. So it still does look like good news here as the economy goes, but as always, being an election year, being a president that's going to rerun on the economy and everything else that's going on right now, the news is going to try their hardest to make you afraid to do anything with stocks, including Twitter stock, which we will talk about right here in the beginning. So I'm going to start here with a tweet because it shows the pictures and screenshots of some of the tweets that were out here. But Jake Morphonios writes, hackers just took control of Twitter accounts of Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Bezos, and Kanye West, and Bloomberg. Shows you how even the world's richest and most powerful people are just as vulnerable as anyone else. It's like an episode of Mr. Robot. I like that show. There's Bloomberg. I'm giving back to the community. All Bitcoin sent to this address will be sent back doubled. If you send $1,000, we'll send back $2,000. Only doing this for 30 minutes. And a Bitcoin wallet address. Bezos had one. Gates had one while he was busy trying to work on his radio transmitter vaccine. Elon Musk had one, and so many others were out there. And of course, for those of you over on Twitter, we'll remember the fact that this meant, and everybody was tweeting about it, the fact that they shut blue check Twitter down. Nobody with a blue check could tweet for about an hour. So it looked like Twitter used to look way back before they had blue check Twitter. But let's see what the New York Post has to say on this here. Hackers reportedly paid Twitter staffer to help with high-profile attack from Noah Manskar. So they're trying to tell us it's an inside job. Hackers paid a Twitter employee who helped them carry out unprecedented attack on several high-profile accounts, a report said. The Twitter insider allegedly worked with hackers to take over the accounts of Tesla chief Elon Musk, former President Barack Obama, tech tycoon Bill Gates, and others, according to the Motherboard. One of the anonymous hackers involved in Wednesday's attack told the outlet they paid the employees for their help, though the terms of their purported deal are unclear. We used a rep that literally done all the work for us, another hacker told tech news site published by Vice News. The accounts were taken over with an internal Twitter tool that shows various details about the identity and status of user accounts, such as whether the email address has been confirmed and whether the account has been suspended, according to screenshots Motherboard published. Twitter told Motherboard that it's still investigating whether its employee allowed hackers to access the tool or used it to take over the accounts themselves. The company referred the Post's questions to its Wednesday statement on the attack, which acknowledged that hackers successfully targeted some of our employees with access to internal system and tools and used that access to take control of high-profile accounts owned by Apple, Uber, Kanye West, and others. San Francisco-based Twitter said it has moved to limit access to its internal systems and tools while it investigates the incident, which it called a coordinated social engineering attack. We're looking into what other malicious activity they may have conducted or information they may have accessed, Twitter said in a series of tweets. The hack on Twitter sent shares tumbling 5.1% in pre-market trading Thursday to 33.83 as of 7:19 a.m. So, yeah, they got through. So Twitter's not as bulletproof as they say they are, and I wonder what Jack has to say about this, because we know that nobody said a word to him on this, because he's probably out on some Zen trip down in Africa or something. But yeah, that was quite the thing, and everybody panicked, and I don't know why. We just didn't have to listen to people who were verified over on Twitter. But one of the other things that goes along with this is the fact that if you look at this, I forgot where I was going with that. Wow. The allergies have fogged up my head. I completely forgot where I was going with that. Oh, that was where I was going with that. So I tried to take advantage of the joke. If you go over and look at my Twitter profile, which we'll pop that up in here, I made the misspelled unverified. Now, that wasn't a throwback to inner city culture or anything like that. That was just the fact that you cannot put the words VERIFI together on Twitter in your screen name right now. They will block it if you try to put those 6 letters together. So they're taking this real seriously. It's kind of funny. Alright, let's keep going here. So I completely missed this story. This is a couple days old at this point, but I completely missed this story somehow until I was listening back to Tim Pool, which I'm a couple days behind on my podcatcher right now. So I was listening back to Pool yesterday, and he pointed this out, so I thought that we should talk a bit about this here. So, from My Northwest, petition to recall Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan clears its first hurdle from Nick Bowman. A Friday ruling from a King County judge will allow a petition to recall Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan to move forward with the signature gathering process. This marks the first major hurdle any such petition needs to clear. The campaign alleges Mayor Durkan endangered the peace and safety of the community during recent protests over the death of George Floyd, citing her institution of a curfew, a failure to institute new policies and safety measures for the Seattle Police Department when using crowd control measures during a public health emergency, and more. In the King County judge's ruling, 6 of the 7 charges levied against Durkan were dismissed, with the allegation regarding the use of crowd control measures allowed to move forward more narrowly than alleged. Durkan's offers can appeal the ruling, but has not expressed whether or not it will. Petitioners now have 180 days to gather verified paper signatures, totaling 25% of votes cast in the last mayoral election. Just under 225,000 ballots were cast in the 2017 election between Durkin and challenger Carrie Moon. That means the recall petition will need to collect over 56,000 signatures. If enough signatures are collected within that 180-day window and the city clerk's office and King County elections can verify them, King County elections will set a date for a special election between 45 and 90 days after the certification, preferably on an already scheduled election day. So, that's a thing. Now, of course, I live in Wisconsin, and we will all look back to 2010 when we looked at the recall election of Governor Scott Walker back then because he decided to make Act 10 a thing. But what's funny about this is Durkin went out and she decided, after letting this go far longer than she needed to, and that's the reason that she should be recalled right now, because this went on for far longer than it ever needed to over there on the Chaz. They're recalling her because she stood up to them and tried to defend the public property of all the people that were living in the Chaz. They're talking to her, they're trying to recall her, because she did what she was supposed to do. So we will see what happens with this. I'm sure this is going to stay in the news up until Election Day, especially given the fact that I'm sure that they were looking to levy the same things against the president, but now it landed on Durkin, and now it's all hers. I can't believe Inslee didn't catch any of this either. All right, next one here. From the Daily Wire, Nick Cannon issues apology for anti-Semitic remarks, does not address racist anti-white remarks from Ryan Saavedra. Nick Cannon issued a statement late on Wednesday night apologizing for anti-Semitic remarks that he made during a recent podcast episode, but failed to address racist anti-white remarks that he made during the same episode. Cannon promoted fringe anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish people, including the Rothschilds, centralized banking, and the 13 families, the bloodlines that control everything, even outside of America, Page 6 reported. Cannon was subsequently terminated by Viacom CBS for his anti-Semitic remarks, but the company did not address the racist anti-white remarks that he made. Cannon issued an apology on Wednesday for the anti-Semitic remarks that he made, and like Viacom CBS, failed to address the racist anti-white remarks that he made. First and foremost, I extend my deepest and most sincere apologies to my Jewish sisters and brothers for the hurtful and divisive words that came out of my mouth during my interview with Richard Griffin, Cannon wrote on Twitter. They reinforced the worst stereotype of a proud and magnificent people, and I feel ashamed of the uninformed and naive place that these words came from. The video of this interview has since been removed, Cannon continued. While the Jewish experience encompasses more than 5,000 years and there's so much I have yet to learn, I have at least a minor history lesson over the past few days, and that it's eye-opening would be a vast understatement. I want to express my gratitude to the rabbis, community leaders, and institutions who reached out to me to help enlighten me instead of chastising me, Cannon concluded. I want to assure my Jewish friends, new and old, that this is only the beginning of my education. I am committed to deeper connections, more profound learning, and strengthening the bond between our two cultures today and every day going forward. So, yeah, he just went up and onto that, but a little bit later on in the article, nowhere in this tweet did he address the racist anti-white remarks that he made during the same episode. When you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know that they'll be annihilated, Cannon said. So therefore, however, they got the power. They had the lack of compassion. Melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul. We call it soul. Soul, brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So the people that don't have it, I'm going to say this carefully, are a little less. When they didn't have the power of the sun started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear, they're acting out of low self-esteem, they're acting out of a deficiency, Cannon continued. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. They have to rob, steal, rape, kill in order to survive. Wow. They had to be savages, they had to be barbaric because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough environments, so they're acting as animals, Cannon said. They're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. And yet we got no apology out of this one here. So that is incredible. The fact that he got up there and said that and got away with it. And this is a guy too, because wasn't he a host of something, America's Got Talent or something, which was populated and watched by a lot of very, very white people. Oh, NBC is not going to be happy about this if they ever catch wind of it. But of course, the first thing they had to do was hit him for the anti Semitism. But yeah, so many things going on out there. All right, let's keep moving on here. From Fox News, North Carolina City approves reparations, apologizes for role in slavery. The council voted 7-0 on a measure to mitigate racial disparities. From Morgan Phillips. North Carolina's Asheville City Council apologized for its role in slavery and racial discrimination, voting unanimously to provide reparations in the form of community investments to help black residents. The council voted 7-0 on Tuesday night on the measure to mitigate racial disparities. The reparations will not provide direct cash payments, as some have suggested, but will provide investments in housing, health care, and greater growth in black neighborhoods. Councilwoman Shanika Smith, who is black, said the council had gotten emails from those asking, "Why should we pay for what happened during slavery?" Slavery is this institution that serves as the starting point for the building of the strong economic floor of white America, while attempting to keep blacks subordinate forever to its progress, said Smith, as reported to the Asheville Citizen-Times. The resolution calls on the city to create a community reparations commission to make concrete recommendations of where to funnel programs and resources. The resulting budgetary and programmatic priorities may include, but not be limited to, increasing minority home ownership and access to other affordable housing, increasing minority business ownership and career opportunities, strategies to grow equity and generational wealth, closing the gaps in healthcare, education, employment, and pay neighborhood safety and fairness within criminal justice. The resolution reads, "Hundreds of years of black blood spilled that basically fills the cup we drink from today," said Councilman Keith Young, who is one of the 2 African American city council members and spearheaded the proposal. "It is simply not enough to remove statues. Black people in this country are dealing with issues that are systemic in nature." Councilman Vijay Kapoor, who is known to split with Smith and Young on police and budget issues, said he supported the resolution for moral reasons but urged skeptics to look at the practical reason. Data showing large disparities between African Americans and other Asheville residents. "We don't want to be held back by these gaps," Kapoor said. "We want everyone to be successful." Well, you have just created a large amount of white flight from your city. Hope you're proud of that. And that's going to be, they're going to focus all their efforts on building up the black areas of town, leaving the other ones to fall into decay. Meaning the people are going to look at the decay and they're going to go back and they're going to move out. Property values are going to rise in the areas that you stuck all the money in. They're going to drop in the areas that you neglected. And the demographic is going to shift. That's just what happens with this. But yes, as of right now, you have told all the white members of the community that you do not have their best interest in mind. You're just focusing on one demographic right now, and I don't see any problem if they take their tax money elsewhere. If they're not going to be able to use the services of the city, then they're going to go to a city where they can utilize the services of the taxes that they pay on their property. So it's just a downward spiral with this. And racist on top of it, but you can't say that Democrats are racist, apparently. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm sure this isn't the last thing that we've heard out of this. And I do like the fact, don't get me wrong on this, that they're not giving out a cash payment on this, that they're actually they're investing in infrastructure. I do like that. Because that does improve the overall value of your city and your community. If you invest in infrastructure. If you just give somebody cash, they go out and spend it. If you invest in infrastructure, they buy the infrastructure, improve on the infrastructure, and then can pass the infrastructure down for generations to come. So this does seem like the more intelligent way to do it, but the fact that you hung the reparations sign on it means that you're basically telling large swaths of your population that you do not have their best interest in mind. So we'll see what happens out of this. All right. Let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, man allegedly sets fire to unmarked police car at Supreme Court, burns himself, gets arrested. In today's edition of Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. Police arrested a suspect outside the Supreme Court on Wednesday afternoon for allegedly setting fire to a court police car, which was parked in the lot near the Supreme Court building in broad daylight. Supreme Court spokesperson Kathleen Arberg told Fox News correspondent Edward Lawrence in a statement that the suspect managed to injure himself in the process and was subsequently arrested, but was then sent to a local hospital for unspecified treatment because of his injuries. An individual poured an accelerant on and set fire to an unmarked Supreme Court police vehicle parked on Maryland Avenue near First Street Northeast. The car was totally burned and an adjacent court vehicle was also damaged, said Arberg. The individual suffered burns in the process. He was taken into custody by Supreme Court police and was transported by ambulance for treatment of his injuries. The suspect was the only person injured in the alleged arson, and he only suffered minor injuries, according to Fox News. His identity has not been released, and a motive has not yet been determined. Really? A motive hasn't been determined with all the bullshit that the media has poured across this country? Over the last 6 weeks, a motive hasn't been determined? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm just a guy who screams into a microphone, and I can see clear as day what the fuck his motive was. But yes, I know that you have to get beyond reasonable doubt, because at that point you have to go and make the allegation and pull him in front of court because of this. But I tried to burn a car and I got burned. That is some Darwin Award shit right there. That is great. A witness to the scene told WUSA 9, "I heard someone shriek and run away. Right after, the fireball caught my eye. I saw a flash, but unfortunately didn't see enough to be able to identify them." Video purportedly from the scene shows a car burning in the parking lot, with the person who posted the video describing it in the caption of the video as in the process of exploding periodically. It's still in the process of exploding periodically. Outdoor lunch break is over. The Wednesday incident occurred the same day as Justice Ginsburg was discharged from the hospital after seeking treatment for a fever and possible infection. In a press release announcing Ginsburg's hospital stay on Tuesday, the court spokesperson said Ginsburg was initially evaluated at Sibley Memorial Hospital in D.C. Last night, after experiencing fever and chills, she underwent an endoscopic procedure at Johns Hopkins this afternoon to clean out a bile duct stent that was placed last August. How much longer do you think this woman has? And why is she staying up there at this point? Go spend some time with your family. I don't know. I thought this was funny. Alright, now for something that is not funny. So this was brought to me over in the Discord from Seawall, which he gave me the Ben Shapiro tweet, and I took the subtweet back out of it. National Museum of African American History and Culture wants to make you aware of certain signs of whiteness. Individualism, hard work, objectivity, the nuclear family, progress, respect for authority, delayed gratification, and more. Wait, the nuclear family, I gotta ask this here. If the nuclear family is the epitome of whiteness, does that mean on Family Matters that the Winslows were white? Because they had a pretty nuclear family. And we got some pictures here to go along with this, talking about race, white culture, rugged individualism, family structure, emphasis on scientific method. Objective, rational, linear thinking is a sign of whiteness. This is probably the most anti-black thing that I've seen. Protestant work ethic. Hard work is the key to success. Wow. This is like bigotry of low expectation stuff. Aesthetics based on European culture. Steak and potatoes, bland is best. Woman's beauty is based on blonde, thin Barbie. Man's attractiveness is based on economic status, power, intellect. Communication. The King's English rules, written tradition, avoid conflict, intimacy, don't show emotion, don't discuss personal life, be polite. Wow. So that is the tweet, and this is the article from the National Museum of African American History and Culture from the Smithsonian. Since white people in America hold most of the political, institutional, and economic power, they receive advantages that non white groups do not. Whiteness and white racialized identity refer to the way that white people, their customs, culture, and beliefs operate as the standard by which all other groups are compared. Whiteness is also at the core of understanding race in America. Whiteness and the normalization of white racial identity throughout America's history have created a culture where non white persons are seen as inferior or abnormal. This white dominant culture also operates as a social mechanism that grants advantages to white people since they can navigate society both by feeling normal and by being viewed as normal. People or persons who identify as white rarely have to think about their racial identity because they live within a culture where whiteness has been normalized. Thinking about race is very different for non white persons living in America. People of color must always consider their racial identity, whether the situation due to the systemic or interpersonal racism that still exists. Whiteness and its accepted normality also exist as everyday microaggressions toward people of color. Acts of microaggressions include verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults towards non whites. Whether intentional or not, these attitudes communicate hostile, derogatory, or harmful messages. And I'm going to put this, I'll hold on to this article because it's quite lengthy. But, I mean, just to look through this, I'm going to put this in the Discord for you guys, just because, so you guys can go and have a look at what this actually is. I was pretty blown away when I first started paging through this, and I haven't sat down and read through it fully myself. There's the pictures that we just looked at. Because it's very, like I said, it's very, very lengthy. I found it late last night while I was listening to Beauty and the Beta, and then as soon as that was done, I laid down and just passed out. The humidity and all the work that I did at work yesterday just got to me. 5 minutes after laying in bed, I was out, so I have not had a chance to sit down and read this in its fullness. But I intend to, and I will give you guys the tools to do the same because it's pretty out there from the little bit I have paged through. So let's move on to this, or from this rather, and check out the next one. But yeah, go ahead and join the Discord if you're on YouTube, or I think over on DLive. You can find the link in the description below, or one of my mini mods can put the link in the chat for that. They all know how to do that. So go and check that out over there. Join up in that. You can see the articles. You can add articles, and I leave stuff in there for you. There's a meme competition going on in there too, so go and check that out over there. One of my mods, you want to do that for me? Let's move on here, though. Georgia governor explicitly voids mask orders in 15 localities. So we are going to move on to the coronavirus from Jeff Amy and Ben Nadler. Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp explicitly banning Georgia's cities and counties from ordering people to wear masks in public spaces. He voided orders on Wednesday that at least 15 local governments across the state had adopted, even though Kemp had earlier said cities and counties had no power to order masks. An increasing number of other states and other residents to wear masks in public, including Alabama, which announced such a ban on Wednesday. The Republican governor has instead been trying to encourage voluntary mask wearing, including telling fans that reduced infections from mask wearing would make college football season impossible. Kemp's move is likely to infuriate local officials in communities that had acted, including Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, Rome, and the governor's hometown of Clark County. Overall, mask orders by Wednesday morning were covering 1.4 million of Georgia's more than 10 million residents. Savannah Mayor Van Johnson was the first local official to defy Kemp and order masks, and said police would start writing $500 citations to businesses that didn't enforce the law. It's officially official. Governor Kemp does not give a damn about us, Johnson wrote on Twitter on Wednesday night. Every man and woman for himself or herself. Ignore the science and survive the best you can. Kemp's new order also bans local governments from requiring masks on public property, which void requirements that some governments have imposed for citizens to wear masks inside the city and county buildings. Kemp was among the first governors to ease earlier restrictions, and while infections declined for weeks afterwards, they began to rise in June. Wednesday's numbers showed nearly 2,800 people hospitalized statewide with the COVID-19 respiratory illness, the highest on record, and a number that's nearly doubled Since the beginning of the month, that state reports 84% of hospitals' available critical beds are in use, although some hospitals say they've opened up more space and have more room. So, I disagree with Brian Kemp on this. I don't think that he has the authority to go. It's federalism on a smaller scale. Governor Kemp is going to try and do a top-down executive order to go over the heads of the people who are closer to their citizenry. Now, once again, on the masks, for me, you should be able to assess your own individual need to wear a mask, your own individuality. And if people are scared of other people not wearing a mask, they can stay home. It's all individual. But if a government does need to do something, to step in for something, it should be as close to the community as possible, like a city government or a county government. The state should not come out and be able to override these small localities. Like I said, once again, it is federalism on a smaller scale. The mayors of these cities know best what's going on, what they need for their constituents, and the constituents that the needs don't fit can move out of the city. It's as simple as that. I don't know if Kemp is scared that they're going to move out of the state on top of it, or what his rationale behind this is, but it is federalism on a smaller scale. So, sorry, Brian Kemp, I can't get behind you on this one. And yeah, if the cities want to do that, it's between them and their individual citizens as to how that goes. It's not your business. It's not your place. So, that's what I'm seeing on that, and we'll see what comes out of this, of course. All right, another one from COVID, from up here in my neck of the woods. Green Bay Packers won't allow fans at camp or preseason home games, from Max Smith. As the NFL season inches closer and closer, teams are starting to make seating plans in accordance with the national COVID-19 guidelines. The Packers have announced that they won't allow fans at training camps or preseason games this summer. The tremendous support of cheering fans at Lambeau Field motivates all of us in the Packers organization, Packers president Mark Murphy said in a statement. But after consulting with local health officials and reviewing league and CDC guidelines, we felt that we needed to make this a difficult decision. We will miss seeing so many of our fans, particularly the young ones, during this exciting time of year. We will continue to work on the protocols and logistics in the hope that we can welcome fans back to Lambeau Field for the regular season without jeopardizing the health of our players, team personnel, and fans. We ask our fans to help us in this effort by wearing masks and staying 6 feet away from non-family members when out in the community in the coming weeks. This is understandable, but still disappointing for fans as well as players. One of the best traditions at Packers camp is players riding kids' bicycles down the Dream Drive to practice, which was first instituted under legendary coach Vince Lombardi. There's still no formal plan from the NFL on what the 2020 season will look like. It should be coming shortly, as training camps are set to begin July 28th. Teams will sufficient time to implement protocols that the NFL's plan will call for. I don't think the NFL has too many fans left at this point. I mean, I'm not going to watch. And I was a huge NFL fan. I mean, I bleed green and gold, and I can't do it this year. If they're going to put Kaepernick in charge of racial messaging, and they're going to play a different national anthem than my national anthem, and do it based on race, because it's racially different, I'm not going to the NFL for a woke lesson. I'm going to the NFL to watch overplayed people throw a cowskin oblong ball across a field. So no, I am not doing football this year. And I think a lot of people are. This is going to hurt a lot of things out. And it's not going to be the coronavirus. It is going to be everything else that they stuck in beside it. So maybe they won't even have to worry about going into anything else. So that's what's happening there. Let's keep going here. Walmart, Kroger will start requiring customers in U.S. stores to wear a mask. From Nathaniel Meyerson over at CNN Business. Walmart will require customers at all of its U.S. stores to wear masks beginning next week, becoming the largest retailer to mandate facial coverings as coronavirus cases continue to rise. Other national chains made similar moves on Wednesday. Kroger and Kohl's announced they would start requiring all customers to wear masks, signaling that more retailers are lining up behind mask-wearing mandates. The National Retail Federation, the main lobbying group for the industry, also called on retailers to require masks for customers. Most major retailers and grocers initially hesitated to enact their own mask mandates for customers during the pandemic, partly over fears of antagonizing shoppers who refused to wear them. Retailers have said they are reluctant to put their employees on the position of enforcing mask requirements. But the ground in the retail has shifted in recent weeks as the coronavirus pandemic worsens. More than 3.3 million people have now tested positive for the coronavirus nationwide, and more than 130,000 people have died, a citation needed. Cases are climbing in much of the country, and many cities and states are reimposing restrictions to contain new outbreaks, including mask requirements in public settings. About 65% of Walmart's more than 5,000 stores, including its Sam's Club locations, are located in areas where there is a government mandate on face coverings. To help bring consistency across the stores and clubs, we will require all shoppers to wear a face covering starting Monday, July 20th. Walmart U.S. Chief Operating Officer Dacona Smith and Sam's Club Chief Operating Officer Lance De La Rosa said in a blog post on Wednesday, "This will give us time to inform customers and members of the changes, post signage, and train associates on the new protocols." And once again, I've already told you my piece on spending money with Walmart. I don't necessarily begrudge anybody who wants to go spend money there, but I'm not going to do it because my assault weapon ammo. Oh no, my assault weapon ammo. So I'm not going to spend money in there. So none of this applies to me. But once again, you should be able to assess for your own self whether or not you want to wear a mask. And once again, now you're going to have to make the choice as to whether or not you want to do business with a company or not wear a mask, or both, and pay the fine or take whatever punitive actions the company decides to pour down on you. So a lot of this is just virtue signaling at this point. Like I said, if you're really that scared of the virus, then stay home. I'm not scared of it, so I don't stay home. And yes, on the very few occasions I need to go to our local home improvement store, the Menards, I will throw it on. It's 5 minutes out of my day, and as soon as I'm out the door, that thing is back off. But for the most part, I do try to avoid doing business with that particular business, because I don't want them telling me what to do with my own body. So that's what we are seeing on this in retail news here. Let's keep going down the list here. From Society Reviews, report Disney's COVID-related financial trouble could see them sell major assets. By Society Reviews. As first reported by Bleeding Fool and Itch Baka, Disney under WDW Pro claims that Walt Disney Company, which has been devastated by shutdowns in the United States and China during the coronavirus outbreak, could be selling off some major assets in an effort to raise cash. According to WDW, the Disney Company is currently hurting for cash, and not by a little. The absolute destruction of the global film industry means that Disney is losing billions and billions of usual expected revenues, with no certain end in sight. Mulan has been pushed to the end of August, but even still that seems optimistic, and likely box office revenues may be as low as 20% what it could have been. A burgeoning Cold War with China likewise makes promoting the film an uncertain formula. The MCU is currently benched, live-action Star Wars is on pause, good. Indiana Jones 5 is more unlikely daily, good. And there's simply no good path forward outside the animation studios. Furthering the dearth of income, Disneyland was prepped to reopen at great expense, only to be indefinitely postponed yet again. The money to reopen Walt Disney World has been immense, but with increasing COVID infections in Florida, it seems more and more likely that increasing capacity will be a slow process, which means revenues for WDW will be lower than projected when the rush was approved to get the parks open fast. Adding to this, CAPEX projects needing completing at WDW are substantial. More than ever in the past decade, the conflict has broken out inside Disney's top level, with some pushing for continued spending new projects such as Splash Mountain reskinning, while others are extremely bearish, with a view that Disney should hold every possible dollar. I still can't believe they're changing fucking Splash Mountain out of everything. Out of everything else that Disney did in his past, Splash Mountain is the one that they're after. Because of the song Zippity Doo Dah. I can't believe that. I've never been to Disney, and it's getting increasingly more and more likely that that's never going to happen just because they're doing this stupid shit. With the company's major money-making assets completely grounded due to COVID-related shutdowns across the world, there is fear that Disney will be forced to sell properties, such as ESPN and AMC, to raise money. Please, dear fucking God, let it be Lucasfilms. Please let them sell that off. Oh my God. Please, just let that happen. Disney's financial troubles are far from over. WDW states that other problems are hurting the economy, such as potential layoffs, reclosing of theme parks, and shutdown of film production. So, that's those. If you'd have said something to me when I was 12 years old, that because I was starting to realize how big of a company Disney was at the time, if you'd have said to me at 12 years old that Disney was going to be having financial troubles, by the time I was a grown-up, I would have told you were an idiot, that Disney was never going to go anywhere. I mean, that was the trope in the 90s. When Carl Winslow had a chance to go back in time to when they first bought the house, and I'm going to cite Family Matters again. When Carl Winslow had the chance to go back in time to the day when they bought the house at first and give himself stock advice, this was, of course, in probably, well, when they went back was probably into the 80s. In the 80s, he told his younger self in a note to buy Microsoft and Disney. That's probably in the 70s, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, go buy Microsoft and Disney as much as you can in stock because it's going to explode. So you would have never, ever thought that Disney was going to happen like this, but they know how to make business hurt, apparently. All right, let's keep going here. From the AP, Trump administration rescinds rule on foreign students, from Colin Binkley. I've been using the AP a lot lately. Facing 8 federal lawsuits and opposition from hundreds of universities, the Trump administration on Tuesday rescinded a rule that would have required international students to transfer or leave the country if their schools held classes entirely online because of the coronavirus pandemic. Good. The decision was announced at the start of a hearing in a federal lawsuit in Boston brought by Harvard University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. U.S. District Judge Allison Burroughs said federal immigration authorities agreed to pull the July 6th directive and return to the status quo. A lawyer representing the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said only that the judge's characterization was correct. The announcement brings relief to thousands of foreign students who had been at risk of being deported from the country, along with hundreds of universities that were scrambling to reassess their plans for the fall in light of the policy. With the policy rescinded, ICE will revert to a directive from March that suspended typical limits around online education for foreign students. ICE did not immediately comment on the decision. Harvard President Lawrence Bacow said it was a significant victory. While the government may attempt to issue a new directive, our legal arguments remain strong, and the court has retained jurisdiction which allows us to seek judicial relief immediately to protect our international students should the government again act unlawfully, Bacow said in a statement. Absolutely good, because if we're going to come in here and we're going to educate these people, especially if they're going to go to a place like Harvard or MIT, what sense would it make to send them back over to spend that education, to use that education in another country? We want the best and the brightest here. So if they're going to come over here and get an education, then they can come over here and get an education and then get picked up by a Fortune 500 company. Somebody who's going to put them to work. be the same with any other student. I would say the same thing if a student wanted to go to, I don't know, the University of Wisconsin, and immediately on, and like a native student, somebody who grew up in Madison, somebody went to the University of Wisconsin and immediately wanted to run out and go live in Ireland. It's your own choice, and you do whatever the hell you want to do, but I'm going to do everything I can to entice that master's graduate out of the UW to stay here and improve our economic situation over here. I'm not going to say you must, but I'm going to do everything I can to try and entice that person in and say, hey, you want to stay here? Improve our economy, man. Come on. So good. Yeah, absolutely. This should have been done from the beginning. Somebody from the top should have said, no, this isn't going to work, and just dumped it down. All right, I got another tweet here for you guys. This is a Joe Biden video. Joe Biden is apparently unveiling a bold new plan to get our kids to market swiftly. So let me get my earphones on. We'll get your earphones on, and we'll have a listen to what Biden had to say.
To get our people to work and our kids to school safely, to get our kids to market swiftly, to power a clean energy revolution in this country, we need to modernize America's infrastructure.
Okay, so in spite of the Wayfair thing, that was probably not the right gaffe to make. To get our kids to market quickly. Oh, Biden. How do you keep doing this? How does this keep happening? And how has nobody said anything? This guy, he can't be the president. Well, let me rephrase that. Donald Trump is the president now. The words, you can't be president, are completely invalidated from here for the rest of history. But I can't believe people would vote for this guy. I cannot believe that. That is incredible. And the fact that, at least the Trump War Room was able to put this, because I'm sure the mainstreams are just going to block the shit out of that there. That was hilarious. All right, I got just a couple more here, and then we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate from NBC News. Ivanka Trump tweets support for Goya Foods amid backlash over CEO's praise of the president. The first daughter's tweet may have violated federal ethics laws. I can't wait to see what that does. From Rebecca Shabbat, Ivanka Trump tweeted support for Goya Foods on Tuesday after the comments from the company's top executive in support of President Trump last week prompted calls to boycott the brand. If it's Goya, it has to be good, the president's daughter, who serves as formal advisor to the president in the White House, tweeted late Tuesday for both English and Spanish, along with a photo of her posing with a can of black beans. Si es Goya, tiene que ser bueno. I'm sure that's the first time that woman has ever used Spanish in her life. The tweet, in support of the company, however, might have violated federal ethics laws, which say an employee's position or title should not be used to coerce or endorse any products. Were you people blind during the Obama administration? That was like a daily thing from him. Wow. Just let the free fucking market work. An employee's position or title should not be used to coerce or endorse any product, service, or an enterprise, or to give the appearance of governmental sanction. According to the Department of Justice, the DOJ describes such action as a misuse of one's government position. People still have private lives. My God. The Office of Government Ethics, an independent executive branch agency, said Wednesday that it doesn't comment on specific individuals. Ivanka Trump's tweet comes as critics of the president have been calling for a boycott of Goya after CEO Robert Unanue said last week at a White House event, "We're truly blessed at the same time to have a leader like President Trump, who is a builder. I am going, after work today, I'm going to go clear the fucking Goya out of the Woodmans. That's it. I got to. Keep a bunch of it up on the shelf and donate the rest of it to the food pantry. If there's anything left, if somebody hasn't gone and beat me to it. This is just out of hand. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Trump's tweet or Ivanka's tweet comes after critics of the president have been. Okay, I read that one there. The president commented on the continuing controversy in a tweet saying the company's doing great and the radical left smear campaign backfired. Yeah. People who would have never touched Goya before went out and bought Goya like crazy. And it's a good brand. So, I can't believe they're going to make an ethics complaint over this. I cannot believe that. But it's Ivanka, so. Alright. I got one more tweet and one more article. And then we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. So, one tweet from President Trump yesterday. Joe Biden and the radical left want to abolish police, abolish ICE, abolish bail, abolish suburbs, abolish the Second Amendment, and abolish the American way of life. No one will be safe in Joe Biden's America. Now, this tweet actually got backlash because of this little section right here. Abolish suburbs. Because, I mean, people are, well, we don't want to abolish suburbs. That's not the point that he was getting with. They're looking at the urban sprawl and they're trying to push the urban sprawl out into places where people have already moved away from the urban areas. They want that way of life to extend everywhere, so people all vote the exact same way so they stay in power forever. Did he word it right? No, absolutely not. Do I get the message that he's trying to put out there? Yes. So no. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have said abolish suburbs, but I understand the sentiment that he was going with on this. Alright, last one. A little bit of overseas news to close out our day. Mysterious incidents in Iran continue as at least 7 boats catch on fire at the shipyard. From Vandana Rambaran. 7 boats at a shipyard in Iran caught fire Wednesday as the latest in a slew of incidents. Wow, I can really read today. 7 boats at a shipyard in Iran caught fire Wednesday, the latest in a slew of mysterious incidents that have led to speculation that an international foe is perpetrating sneak attacks in an attempt to sabotage the embattled regime. No, it absolutely couldn't be our citizenry. We hold them under an iron fist. Morons. I almost said the absolutely condemned R word for that. But that would have got this channel shut down in a second. The blaze started in the port of Bushehr in southern Iran, but was contained and no casualties were reported. The head of the local crisis management organization told IRNA news agency Iran's only nuclear power plant is located in Bushehr province. The cause of the fire remains unclear, the report said. Over the last several weeks, explosions at a nuclear enrichment complex, a missile production factory, and a gas pipeline in an apartment building in Tehran have raised eyebrows. Some analysts have speculated that Israel might be or could be the likely aggressor. Well, that's going to get this channel shut down. The Washington Post reported, because Washington Post can say it, but the rest of us can't. The tempo and tenor of the recent explosions in Iran have been unusual. There is evidence of a concerted campaign underway to thwart Iran's nuclear program. Jason Brodsky, policy director at the United Against Nuclear Iran, told Fox News recently, the more Iran advances its nuclear program in violation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the greater the likelihood of additional strikes. He had continued, additionally, Tehran is distracted by the coronavirus and economic problems. The public is increasingly disenchanted with the regime's ability to govern the country. The conditions are ripe for additional kinetic activity. 2 other fires have also puzzled Iranian officials, one at an industrial zone in Mashhad, where 6 gas storage tanks were engulfed in flames Monday, and another at a petrochemical facility in Mashhar was blamed on an oil leak. The incidents at various locations across Iran also come as tensions between Washington and Tehran remain high, particularly after the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top commander of the elite Quds force, General Qasem Soleimani, in January. Yeah. They want to come out and say that it's Israel. Dude, look inside yourself first. Because you treat your people like crap. And I'm pretty sure they had enough of it. And I'm sure that there was a spark that came out of the fact that Trump came out and killed Soleimani, thus weakening some of what was going on from the military complex that's over there. And yeah, I don't think it's coming from outside your country. I think it's coming from inside. I think it's sabotage. Sabotage in light of a revolution, which that country is in desperate need of. So I'm sure that this is going to become bigger and bigger news as more is happening, or more of it's happening. So we'll keep checking up on this here, and we will do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and we will get on out of here. So I kind of put this down here in the beginning, even though you can see it up on the top corner there already. I alluded to this over on Twitter because everybody knows what the thing that I like is going to be today. Because even if they're doing stupid shit right now with the police cars and everything, I remain to be a great big Ford guy, as noted by the undisclosed amount of money that I'm paying for that white vehicle that's sitting outside right there. I am a Ford man. And if they're going to make a bad decision with the police cars, they're going to balance it out with a good decision on this. Please meet the new 2021 Ford Bronco. The Ford Bronco is, this is going to be something cool. And this is going to be one of the first times a major automaker in the U.S., because we know that Rover was able to do it, even though they're ridiculously expensive. A major automaker in the U.S. is going to be able to stand up to Jeep. This niche in the market has been dominated by AMC and then subsequently Chrysler forever. These things, look at this. They're so cool. And it's going to be, you'll be able to get it in a 2-door or a 4-door. You can take the doors off and drive around legally that way, which is incredible because you can't do that. And many, many other things. They've got several models up here. You can get your alloy rims or your little steelies for doing your off-road. You get a base model, and the base model comes with an optional 35-inch tires on the Sasquatch package. They went out to build a cool vehicle that people are going to want to buy just for fun. And they even put the original emblem on there. This thing is cool. And I can't wait to see one. For what they're asking for them, it's completely impractical for anything that I'm going to do, but I might buy one. I might buy one. Because where do they start? The base starts at $28,500. Or if you get a 4-door, it's $33,200. So starting at, for baseline strip down, is $28,500. And I read earlier, because I was looking through this deeper yesterday, it comes with a stick. You can get a manual transmission in it. You can't get a manual transmission in an American-built vehicle anywhere else, except you can get a stick in this. So this is cool. This is a thing I like, definitely, and I can't wait to start seeing these things running down the road. And like I said, I might actually have to keep my nose clean, get my credit back up, and go and buy one of these things, because I can't wait to see one. I can't wait to see one. I can't wait to drive one, because these things look badass. All right, now for a thing that I hate. So, we read from the Daily Wire. Marianne Williamson, Democrats, media made me look crazy. From Paul Bois. Wellness queen Marianne Williamson, the former Democratic candidate for president who became a viral sensation due to her colorful performances on the debate stage, claims that the DNC and the mainstream media conspired to make her look like a crazy person. Speaking with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach during a Facebook Live discussion, video below, Williamson said that political media industrial complex protected the establishment and suppressed outside voices. Fact check true. There were talking points that were everywhere, that I was crazy, that I told AIDS patients not to take their medicine. The most crazy things were said, exclaimed Williamson. To whatever extent possible, I know. I don't want to say. I just think that there's a political and media establishment elite, she continued. I don't think it's Democrat or Republican, and I think that they have a way of protecting their own and suppressing voices, that they don't wish to be on the stage with them. The job of the DNC should not be in any way to dictate the process. The job of the DNC is to facilitate the process. During the same interview, Marianne Williamson hit at the country's two-party system and claimed that both Democrats and Republicans are working together to prevent third-party influence. Also, fact-check true. Political parties were not mentioned in the Constitution, and George Washington warned us against them when leaving office. He said, or she said rather, he said in his farewell address that parties were formed factions of men who would care more about their faction than about their country. Fact check true. And when you look at the history of the United States, third party voices have been extremely influential. Abolition came from the Abolitionist Party. Women's suffrage came from the Women's Party. Social Security came from the Socialist Party. She continued, but back in the 60s, in response to the candidacy and the influence of George Wallace, the Democrats and Republicans formed a pretty unholy alliance. So pretty much everything Williamson is saying is true at this point. And I don't hate her for saying this, and I don't hate the fact that she's brought this up. I hate the fact that this is so inherently obvious and nobody's going to do anything about this. We're not individualist anymore. I keep saying and railing on Twitter, I can't believe that my generation, the millennial generation, well, I'm kind of on the line between millennial and Gen X, but still, my generation that grew up singing the I Am Special song has become such a collectivist generation. And I realize the irony of how collective it is that I'm saying that, but that's something I'll square the circle of on another day. But we were taught to be individualists when we were kids, and now we've become even more collectivist than our forefathers, when we should be seeking individuality. And just like this, we will choose faction over country. And I hate that. I hate that this is a thing. But thank you, Marianne Williamson, for bringing it back out, and thank you for the Daily Wire for facilitating it, because nobody else is going to facilitate this. Nobody else is going to bring this up to the forefront and talk about it. Just Williamson, and just Daily Wire for putting it out there. None of your mainstreams are going to say a word about this. They don't probably even know that they happen. So, that is going to be our show today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, especially if you chatted in the live chat here, because I will read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat throughout the week, so you'll get your credit where your credit is due. And we will be back here tomorrow at the same time with more news, because it's never going to stop here. And then I'm going to go to work, and then I'm going to spend the weekend at my mom and dad's doing a bunch of oil changes on my dad's vehicles. I was going to do brakes on my own, but I ran out of money. So we will see you back here on Monday for Contemporary and for the Red and Ed Show. Make sure you come back by and check out both of those shows. And, of course, back in the Red and Ed Show, we do read the live chat between topics, too. So you'll get your messages out there as well. Until then, have a great weekend. Or, it's not weekend yet, I'm sorry. Tomorrow. Wow. I did a thing I like that and a thing I hate today, not read the live chat. So until then, tomorrow we will see you and have a great day. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.